Hello, this is Dr. Jerry Lloyd again, and we are going to be looking back in Genesis chapter 1 and see about the fourth day, what God did on the fourth day. We've covered 1 through 3, the 3 days, and prior to that, some things that took place. But now we are looking at the fourth day. Now let's see what he said. Now, just so you know where we are. In Genesis chapter 1, we looked at verse 9, and God said, "Let the waters of the heavens be gathered together into one place." And so that what was the whole earth covered with water, then the waters were gathered together into seas, or the sea, and the dry land would appear. We called that Pangea, as not necessarily what the Bible calls it, but that's the idea. So that in the days of Peleg, the earth would be divided. And until then, it was some believe, most believe, I suppose, that there was one continent. And but at any rate, that is, you might call it a fairy tale, but there's evidence for it. And God called the dry land earth and gathered the waters together. He called seas, and God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the grass." And there was all kinds of vegetation. And then, and the evening and the morning were the third day. Now, what happened on the first day? Do you remember? Well, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and God then divided the light from the darkness. You know, the darkness he called night, or the light he called day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. When was light created? The first day. So on the first day he created light. Now we find out something else in verse 14. The third day, verse 13, and in the 14, verse 14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years. And let there be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, a greater light to rule the day and a lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Now, what's the deal that's going on here? If God created light on the first day, now he's creating the sun, and he's creating the moon and the stars. Where did the light come from first? Well, apparently they didn't come from the sun, the moon, and the stars. Now, logically, you would what? You would create the source of light first, and then you would create that light would reach the earth, and you'd have light. But he created light, and then 4 days later, or on the fourth day later, he created the source of light. Now, what's the deal here? The closest star is, I think, is Proxima Major or something like that. And I think pretty close around there is Betelgeuse or something. And but the closest star takes 6 years for the light of that star to reach the earth. Well, okay, 6 years, that's doable, I suppose, at 186,000 miles per second, light traveling. But there were only 4 days here. Well, see, here's the deal. Scientists have calculated backwards. They have said it takes our other stars hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of years to reach the earth. Consequently, the universe is millions or thousands, hundreds of thousands years old. That makes sense, right? Yeah. If the stars were created and we had to wait for the light to come to earth. But God said that he created the light on the earth on the first day. And it wasn't until 4 years later, or 4 days, 4 days later that he created the source of that light. You say, well, that's not logical. Well, sure it is. God can do it any way he wants to. Let me digress here just a little bit. I want to look over in Isaiah and something that we need to nail down here. Isaiah, the first of the major prophets, and I think it's chapter 54. I didn't put it in my notes, but it just very significant along these lines that God says, he says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, and neither are your ways my ways. For it says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours, and my thoughts than your thoughts. See, his way of thinking is just completely opposite of man's. That's what he's saying. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than yours. What we need to learn from this is take God at his word, and we'll might learn something from it. Who was it? The Joker that said, don't kill him. Or Two-Face, I guess it was. Told the Joker, talking about Batman, don't kill him because then he can't learn nothing. Well, we need to take God at his word. And if we shut out his way, if we're not looking for his way, if we're looking what's logical, then we're not going to learn nothing. You know, what was it said over in the prophets? He said, my people perish for lack of knowledge. We don't know God's word. So we see here that God created the light reaching the earth, and then he created the sun, moon, and the stars. So consequently, doing it that way, you cannot gauge the age of the earth or those stars by how far away they are, because the light was reaching the earth before they were even ever created. That's what he said. We better believe it, or we're going to have some weird views of the universe. Some other things that are interesting here. He says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for, now what is the purpose of this? Now what did we read in this? If you remember, the sun, moon, and stars. We studied about the creation of the sun, moon, and stars. A lot of people wonder, is there life on other planets? Do these other stars have planets with life on them? Notice what he says here. Why did he create them? For people? For planets? Whatever? Why did he create them? Listen to what he says. And just believe it, okay? Let them be for, just day from the night, and let them be for signs. Signs in the heavens. I've been hearing some things on the TV about that. Things that are happening today. Some of what they're saying is weird, not even scriptural necessarily, but the world is recognizing that things are different. How many months this year are going to be meteor showers? Sounds like more than I've ever heard of. So let them be for signs and seasons. Now here's an interesting thing here. If the sun, moon, and stars are for seasons, then it must be talking about the earth, because they're not viewed the same way as other planets, because they have different years. Some of them have very short years, others have very long years, and so their seasons, some of them turn differently on their axis, one or two of them, and you have one and a moon, I think, and so their seasons and their days are much different than ours. But he's talking about on the earth, sun, moon, and stars are what determine the seasons, and for the days and the years. Our years are not the same as a year on Mars or on Venus. And let them be for lights. Why did he put them there? For lights in the firmament of heaven, to give light. Why? To give light where? Upon the earth. There's so far some. In fact, I understand that there are hundreds of billions of galaxies, each having hundreds of billions of stars. That's what Childcraft, what they reported in that encyclopedia. And so hundreds of billions of stars, but we only see a few thousand, very few thousand, maybe 2 or 3. That depends on how good your eyes are, how can they be for seasons and everything? Well, when you look at a light bulb, do we see all there is? No, we just see the light from that little light bulb. But the thing is, there's wiring that goes, and eventually goes to the telephone pole, and the telephone pole goes to the transformer somewhere, and then it goes off to a generator. Maybe it's a atomic reactor of some kind, and all that stuff just to give us a little light, you see. Now, when that light gets here, you can have a light bulb hanging there, and it'll light up the room, especially if it's 100 watt, But the thing is, if you get you an expensive chandelier, I remember in the upper lobby of the Bible college where I went to school, they had a huge chandelier, multi-$1,000 chandelier hanging there, and to light the lobby. And what did that show? That showed extravagance, riches. Now they could have put some light bulbs down there, and it would have lit it up pretty good. But the majesty of the person or the owner of the building is determined by what kind of light fixture you have. Well, think of God's light fixture in the heavens. It is more magnificent than anything that goes around the earth. So he gave it 4 days, 4 seasons, and 4 years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven, I'm in verse 5 now, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. It wasn't to give light for other people. It wasn't give light upon Mars, although it does give light on Mars. It was for the earth, and consequently the people thereon. And God made 2 great lights, a greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. Those were to rule the night. And God set them in the firmament, not to rule, but to give light to the light and seasons and stuff. And God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. Why? Again he repeats, to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. Now there's something else that's kind of interesting here to me. Let's see if I can find it. That he gave purpose of these things, and the purpose was for the people on earth. He emphasizes that 2 or 3 times. If God says it once, that's not good enough. But he says it 3 times here. That it's for us. It's for us. All of this magnificent chandelier in the universe, most of which we can't even see the wiring of it, is for us to light our night and for our seasons and for our days and for our years. Let me show you a little something else here. As we look at it, there are two different kinds of lights. There was I'll read it to you, okay? And then I'll explain it to you. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, God says, and there are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial one and the glory of the terrestrial is another. Now, what is it talking about? The glory is how bright they are. They say that all the stars can be identified by their magnitude. The magnitude is how brightly or what kind of light they give off. There are some yellow stars or some white stars, some blue stars, whatever, but they have a different light signature or magnitude that you can identify them by. And but there are two basic kinds of shining. In Job, the oldest book of the Bible, it says about the moon, look at the moon and it shines not. Why? Because it is reflecting the light of the earth. There are heavenly bodies that do not shine, but we can still see them very easily, like Venus or the morning star or the evening star, which are both Venus. The moon does not generate its own light, but it's the brightest light in the sky and at night. Why? Because it's reflecting the light of the sun. That would be a terrestrial body. The glory is reflected, whereas you have celestial bodies which radiate their own light. They are generating their own light. So you have terrestrial bodies which are reflecting light. It's interesting that all the planets, Earth is green and stuff. It's beautiful, but all the other planets are very plain, but they're highly reflective. Why? Because it is to give light to the earth. Same with the moon. It's great reflecting. I don't want to form it, but there's a great reflection that it gives, and it can live. One guy told me that a guy slept out on the deck of a ship during the Second World War, and during a full moon, and he got moonburn. I don't know whether that's a lie or not, but it's reflecting the light of the sun. And so he tests that there's one glory or shining of the sun, and another glory or shining of the moon. It's a different kind of shining. And another glory of the stars. For one star differs from the other star in glory. And what's the point of all that? So also is the resurrection of the dead. We will differ in our glory, one from the other, how brightly we shine. What is that difference? In Daniel chapter 12, we see something. In verse 3, he says, "And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth, they're dead, physically. They're going to wake up, some to everlasting life, and some to everlasting shame and contempt." So we're all going to be resurrected, but some to a glorious life, others to shame and contempt. "And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever." What determines how brightly we shine when we get to heaven in our glorified body is our faithfulness in turning many to righteousness. What does that mean? Over in Proverbs 11:30, he puts it this way. He says, "The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life." What does that mean? It's talking about a family tree. You've led people to the Lord. "And he that winneth souls is wise." That's what it says over there in Daniel chapter 12, that the wise are the ones that will shine as the brightness of a firmament. So there is going to be differences in the shining of our bodies in heaven. Finally, the last thing that I would kind of like to talk to you about, Job 38. He says in verse 7, he says, it's God talking about Job, or talking to Job now. And he's giving Job a little test here. And Job, where were you whenever I created the earth? You tell me. And here's one of the things he talks about. Where were you? At the foundations thereof, fastened, and who laid the cornerstone thereof? And then verse 7, "When the morning stars sang together, and the sons of God shouted for joy." Now, the sons of God is talking about something else. We'll worry about that in the middle, because this is talking about two different events. It divides the verse in half. But the first is talking about the creation. And what happened at the creation? The stars sang together. Now, who's it talking about? Well, in Revelation, now this can be talking about the creature, but in Revelation, it gives us a hint, and I'm not going to try and prove it any further than this. In Revelation chapter 1, verse 20, or verse 20, he says, last verse of the chapter, he says, the mystery of the 7 stars, which thou sawest in the right hand, the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches. Now, an angel is a messenger. And so maybe he's talking about the pastors, and they are stars. But in view of what we read about in Job, that this was actually at the beginning of the creation, even before the fall, maybe, that the stars sang together at the creation. Why is it? I don't know, but they definitely weren't people, that living back then. So the stars could be talking about the angels as well. Now, you call also obviously created the sun, moon, and stars for our benefit. So remember, his thoughts are not ours, and his ways are not ours. His ways are far above what we can even imagine. This is Dr. Jerry Lloyd. Thank you very much.